Hello guys, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of versioning your web API, aka backend, aka web service, aka RESTful service, right? Please watch part 1. This is very important. You can quickly take a look at this YouTube channel of mine and where you can find all the videos on another YouTube channel, right? So let's quickly go back to where we left off. So we're talking about version 1, version 2, right? Another thing that I want to show, which is the last thing about version updates. I moved it from version 1 now to version 2, right? It's services. So services has what we call V1. And like I said, I want you to pay attention, right? So I'm gonna go to startup folder, version updates. You see, there we go. So this class, it's a version update service underscore V1 from the folder V1. So here I'm interacting with what? The response of V1. I'm also interacting with what? The auto mapper for V1. Do you understand? Because here it is. When I say mapper.map, I'm mapping this guy to V1, right? Cool. But what about the V2? I'm glad you asked. So V2, we still have a V2. There we go. So this will be the V2 interacting with the response of V2, and AutoMapper knows about the response of V2, right? So I showed you from the contract V1, V2. I showed you AutoMapper. I'm gonna make an extensive video about this one, V1, V2. And I showed you the controllers V1, V2, and finally the services V1, V2. Then there's a folder called validations. Do I have any validations for version updates? No, so this is not necessary, right? So let me show you now from this web API running locally. So let me go to Swagger. You see, so everything here has been denoted. Is it V1 or is it V2? So let me quickly close all of them so I can show you the high level overview of what I mean. Good. So mostly you see access token V1, feedbacks V1, in-app patches V1, login V1, news feeds V1, notifications V1, rewardable ads V1, and so forth and so forth. Then there comes a version update V1 and version update V2. So let me show you the difference. When you're visualizing your endpoint of the web API, so this is what's going to happen. The response, you see, these are the responses. The way I just showed you from the part 1 of this video, of this series, which is versioning. You're expecting 3 things: the version, the release note, and create on. And I can run this, it works. But before I do that, let me also show you version 2. Now version 2, it's quite different because it expects something. You see, but it's also going to report to you whatever you want to get as a version update. Is it V1? Is it public or not? So let me show you that both they work, right? So firstly, I'm going to try out this one and I'm going to fire it, and it's going to return some data. There we go. So data has been released, right? So like I said, if you're using my mobile app and you haven't updated your app or upgraded your app, you can still interact with the V1 or version updates, because I know the first time you launch the app, you need to interact with this endpoint, right? So as you can see, you're getting data V2, version 2.2.8. It says it fixed a major bug on the version updates page and increased the performance, right? This happened when on the 30th of August, right? So this works. But let me show you the V2. So let me just quickly close this. But the V2 of version updates, I can't just execute it without specifying what platform. So now do you understand what is it that I was trying to fix? Because let me do this. My app, it's on both platforms, Google Play Store and Apple Store, right? So I did it version 1 because my app was only on Google Play Store, not on App Store. But as soon as I released it to be on App Store, then I had a problem. So let me show you. So this is a Google Play Store. This is my app currently, right? So let me show you the versioning of it. So this is the version, currently it's a version 228. And what did you see there? The first version, you saw 228. You see it works, right? However, the problem is this. Let me show you the app on Apple Store. Give it a couple of seconds. Now, there we go. So this is License Handy Tapes, right? But I want to show you the versioning of it. You see the version. Look at the version history. So I released the version 2.26, 227, 228, and 229. So do you see now they are not matching? Android sticks with the version 228, which is here it is. The current version 228. But Apple Store has the most recent one, which is version 229. So what I was trying to solve with the versioning was this, that for V2, I want you to specify what platform do you want. For example, if I say Android, it knows, and hit execute. You see, it gives me data and it shows, is this guy public? It's false. Well, this one's supposed to be true. I'll fix it. But if I go for iOS, I say iOS and hit execute, you see it shows version 229, meaning that the person who's launching my app using iPhone is gonna get the version 229, of which it is public, right? And this was uploaded on the 30, do you understand? Of which the Android version was not uploaded on the same date. Okay, was uploaded on the same date. Okay. But the time is different. But the point, that's the point. I was trying to resolve that. So the version 2 of my endpoint for version update requires me to specify what platform do I want to interact with. So this is all about the versioning, and I love this. Now, I don't know if I still got time, but let me show you if I were to tamper. Come on, close all. If I were to tamper with something, I don't have enough time, but let me show you with the news feeds, our feedbacks. So let's quickly go. Remember, we start with the contracts, requests, or let's just say responses. It's fine. Yes, feedbacks. Let's just say I want to add additional property, but I can't do it for this guy, right? But I will need to do it for I will need to do it for version 2. So I'm gonna go to version 2 responses. First, I will need to create a folder called general, and I will need to create a class called get all feedbacks response v2. So that's the first place. Secondly, I will need to go to automapper. So feedbacks v1 profile, I will need to create a folder under this guy, and then I will need to say, listen, you're gonna be general, you're gonna have this as a v2. We close that, and you will need to go to controller. You need to create another controller for feedbacks, but this is gonna be version 2. So firstly, I will need to create a folder under v2 called general, and create a controller class called the feedbacks underscore v2 controller, right? Then lastly, I will need to do the services. So as you can see, for feedbacks, right, I will need to go under this folder called the v2. I'll create a folder called general here. I also create another folder called feedbacks, and then I will have these two files. First, the interface, right, of version 2, and secondly the implementation of that interface. So all of this is a versioning. This is what Microsoft was able to achieve, Facebook was able to achieve, and YouTube was able to achieve. So this is what I also achieved. Whatever you do on the back end or on the RESTful service, you need to make sure that you do versioning, and it's a lot of work, and you need to thoroughly test it. I can teach you all of this for 25 Rand per session for an hour, Monday to Friday, 8 p.m. until 9 p.m. I'll leave my numbers.